Cleared across this very narrow street and plowed into the front of this mobile home. Parents picking up their kids here at this elementary school tonight are leaving with this letter. They're 36 hours into this rescue, and let me tell you, only half of these cats are out of this house tonight. I just couldn't hide my inner cat any longer for Halloween. What we're seeing inside of this Sarasota courthouse right now is somewhat of a face-off between stepmother and biological mother.
Officers just updated us moments ago about what happened. Let's get right out to our Jacqueline Iglesias near the Nebraska Food Mart where it all happened. Jacqueline?
Well, Jameson, we have a flurry of activity out here tonight. You can see that police are saturating this area as we still have 2 of the 3 suspects involved in this armed robbery on foot and on the loose tonight. Here's what we know from police. Around 9:40 tonight, 3 men who are wearing masks and armed with guns went into the Nebraska Food Mart. They pistol whipped the clerk, police say, and then emptied out 3 cash registers. An eyewitness I spoke with says those 3 men ran out of this food mart. That is where they encountered a man who cleans the parking lot. They shot him in the neck, according to this eyewitness. Now, at the same time, it's not sure how this happened, but one of those suspects happened to be shot by his accomplice. Take a look here in the parking lot. You can see some of the cash stolen in this robbery. Police say that that suspect was carrying strewn on the floor. Now, the eyewitness says that her fiance was also here. She sent him over to see if their friend was doing okay. Here's what happened next.
They said he could moan and groan. He was shot in the face, like grazed, like through here somewhere, in his face on one side or the other. But they said he was still breathing whenever I yelled over there to make sure he was still alive.
We want to check back in with Jacqueline Iglesias. She's on the scene. She was just at a news conference. She's out there with investigators, and we want to check in with her now to see if she's learned some new information. Jacqueline?
Well, Dia, right now, I mean, firefighters out here, from what we're told, have their hands full. This is going to be a day-long effort as they continue to fight hotspots. That main fire is out, though. The concern, though, as you said, we're learning very hazardous chemicals inside this former plastic plant that if you do not keep them wet, these will explode. Because of that fact, these firefighters, hazmat crews, they have to stay on the perimeter of this building. They have not even entered as of yet, and we're going on close to 2 hours now. This is also what's hindering finding out who was on board that aircraft. They cannot get close enough to determine even if there are any survivors. They were searching the trunk of that car for what, though, right now, we are not sure. Now, we do have a very active scene out here. Obviously, word of his detainment has caused a media storm out here. On either side of me, I'm being sandwiched in by photographers and reporters. And we also have about 4 helicopters overhead. So this is a very active scene that we have. Again, though, we want to be clear, George Zimmerman at this point has just been detained. There have been no charges filed at this point. But as soon as we have an update for you, we'll bring you that either on air or online at abcactionnews.com.
Tonight, the family of the gunman, Myron May, now revealing new insight about him, saying there was no indication he was planning something so tragic. Our Jacqueline Iglesias joins us live in Tallahassee with that exclusive interview tonight. Jacqueline?
Almost 24 hours ago, just beyond this crime scene tape, here on the steps of this library, Myron May took his last breaths, and tonight his uncle is opening up about the Thanksgiving plans they had. But instead of coming together for dinner next week, May's family will be coming together for a very different reason: his funeral.
He was going to get together with me and cook Thanksgiving dinner.
Preparing Thanksgiving dinner with his nephew Myron Mays is a memory Wallace Freeman won't be making. Instead, he's planning the 31-year-old's burial.
His mother's birthday was yesterday, so I know it's a heartbreaker to her.
Freeman last saw his nephew on Saturday. He spent the night before returning to this guest house family friends were letting him live in 6 miles away in Weewahitchka. He would leave the very next day to visit friends at FSU.
It's a shock because he was quiet.
May moved back to the Florida Panhandle just 3 weeks ago after living in Houston and New Mexico, where trouble found the lawyer just last month.
He saw a guy with a gun at his apartment.
Then there was this, a police report filed with the Las Cruces Police Department by his ex-girlfriend, claiming May was harassing her and recently developed a severe mental disorder.
believing police were bugging his home and even putting cameras in his car. When ABC Action News gained exclusive access to May's cottage, we found this, a half-full bottle of hydroxyzine, a drug commonly used to treat anxiety and nervousness.
He wasn't a monster. He was nice, sweet young man.
His friends told us he was also having financial issues. Here he is on a camping trip earlier this month studying for the Florida bar. Now tonight, while his family is thankful May did not kill anyone, they're struggling to answer why he opened fire and wounded 3 innocent people at his alma mater.
We don't know what went down, but we're in shock because he was no kind of person like that.
May's mother is back in Ohio tonight, where he spent the majority of his childhood. He moved here to Florida at the age of 12 and was raised by his grandmother. This will be the 7th family funeral for May's family this year. Live tonight in Tallahassee, Jacqueline Inglace, ABC Action News.
Devastating reality of this morning's case setting in tonight for Phoebe's mother, who had not seen her little girl since Christmas Eve. She spoke with our Jacqueline Inglace, and Jacqueline, it's hard to imagine what she's going through tonight.
Jameson, I've been by Phoebe's mother's side for at least half the day today. She is still shaking, but the one thing she asked that I show you tonight are these. It's the last drawings that Phoebe did and handed to her mother. And now tonight, Phoebe's mom believes that she is still drawing, just in heaven and for God.
She was my little angel baby. She always will be. Now she really is.
There's nothing anyone can do or say to console Michelle Kerr.
It's still new. Phoebe's spirit, she was so lovable.
Her 5-year-old daughter, Phoebe, thrown over Dick Meissner Bridge early this morning into the frigid bay water below, likely to her death, by the one person Kerr felt she could trust her daughter with the most, the little girl's father, John Chuck Jr.
Once you meet this little girl, you fall in love with her instantly. She just has that effect on you.
The 29-year-old suffers from multiple sclerosis and says when she became sick and physically unable to care for Phoebe, she allowed John Chuck to care for her. It was an agreement they'd worked out outside of court.
I thought it was for the best.
Kerr told ABC Action News she's separated from John Chuck shortly after Phoebe's birth and acknowledges knowing John Chuck suffered from bipolar disorder. She believes the 25-year-old recently went off his medication, something he'd done before.
He was definitely a Jekyll and Hyde. He was a demon. I felt like a devil.
Kerr last saw her daughter on Christmas Eve. John Chuck dropped her off and was reportedly struggling with the news that Kerr recently became engaged to another man. She feels jealousy caused her ex to act out.
I never would have guessed he would have done such a thing to his own baby girl.
Well, Kerr told me that on Christmas Eve, Phoebe was right out here on this street playing hide and seek with her half-siblings. Her 2 older brothers, even though they knew where she was hiding, decided to let her win the game because she was the baby in the family. Now, coming up at 6, you're going to hear the very important question Phoebe was asked over the holidays. For now, though, we're live in Ruskin. Jacqueline Inglace, ABC Action News.
They accessed this hallway here through the ceiling tile and came down the other ceiling tile.
For 6 months, it puzzled Pastor Mason Dorsey as to who broke into a St. Pete church and stole cash. Police showed up, took a report, and recovered a partial fingerprint. Only the fingerprint proved worthless.
I'm thinking there's not a whole lot of hope for this one.
Detectives also found the screwdriver they believe the thief used to pry open this filing cabinet.
Still locked, too.
And submitted it for a new type of forensic testing called touch DNA. It's not DNA you can see like saliva or blood. It's microscopic.
Touch DNA is the transfer of cells from one item to another via touch.
Analysts like Janelle Borey scrape or swab surfaces to get enough skin cells to match to suspects.
You opened a door, or you grabbed somebody and held them, or you placed your hands on a countertop. All of those things could lend itself to the transfer of skin cells.
All it takes, according to Borey's, are 30 skin cells. That's not a lot, considering scientists estimate humans shed 30 to 40,000 skin cells every hour.
Typically, there's lots of things that determine how much skin is put down or how many cells are put down, whether it be if the person's very sweaty, so that's a medium for transfer for the cells.
Once a sample is taken, the cells are separated and then undergo the same laboratory procedure as standard DNA testing. If a DNA profile is extracted, it's compared to a suspect's DNA or entered into an FBI database. In the case of the church burglary, analysts say the profile from the screwdriver matched this man, 44-year-old Scott Regan. But just how accurate is the DNA match?
For us, it's 330 billion. 1 in 330 billion.
Enough proof for detectives to arrest and charge Regan. The touch DNA also linked him to 4 other church burglaries in the Bay Area.
He is actually the poster child for the touch DNA.
The concept has been around for nearly a decade, but the forensic method has only been offered at the Pinellas County Crime Lab for the past 3 years. In that time, Major Mike Kovacic with the St. Pete Police Department says it's helped solve 38% of burglary cases.
Once you get into the extraction process.
Now, lab analysts say nearly 90% of the cases that come through the crime lab have one piece of evidence collected in an attempt to obtain touch DNA.
For us, it's given us another tool to utilize, and those cases prior to August 2010 would have never been solved.
Bringing closure to dozens of victims, and in Pastor Dorsey's case, it's at least giving him a day in court.
To identify the person to us was a big relief and pretty impressive.
Scott Regan is awaiting trial and is facing 9 counts of burglary. As for touch DNA, detectives say it's now being used to investigate violent crimes throughout the Bay Area and even in a recent arson case. I'm Jacqueline Inglace, ABC Action News.
The watercolor is kind of a new age spin on things, and that's what I wanted, like something different.
Marcus Lund is among just a handful of tattoo artists across the world who has the talent to create watercolor tattoos. And he's putting what you would see on a painter's canvas onto people's bodies right here in Ybor.
All of us that are involved in it are all painters. We're all professional artists. We've all studied it.
Tess Martinez is from New York and sought Lund out. She's inking her entire arm with a surreal scene, an octopus eating an elephant.
He was the guy.
Lund can do anything from a Hello Kitty tattoo to the more abstract, inking images on the skin that appear transparent, the colors suspended, even recreating the textures of a paintbrush stroke.
You have to know where your highs and lows are, because you have bristles that are going to be hitting and bristles that aren't going to be hitting when you're pushing basically the brush across.
But Lund is not using a real brush or stencils, just a tattoo gun and his imagination. He isn't using a special ink either, making this technique very difficult. So few can do it, his striking work landed him on the pop culture site BuzzFeed.
I'll sit at home with the watercolor and water and paper and just sit there and pull streaks and do little abstractions so I can see how it's physically done.
His continuous studying of the technique is what's drawing people's eyes to his work and into his chair.
I'm glad that Marcus is doing it.
In Ybor, Jacqueline Inglace, ABC Action News. Off duty, but still on patrol. Tampa's shrimp docks are dark tonight, looking just as empty as they are eerily quiet. Still, Hillsborough County Deputy Christina Ammons knows they're lurking in the shadows, and they're waiting for her. All 50 of them.
We have Katniss, Echo 8.
Deputy Ammons has been coming to the dock every night for the past 7 months. First called here for a dead body floating in the water. She shows up alone, only arming herself with food.
This is why I like coming at night like this. All the traffic and people are gone, and it's just the cats and I.
Once the dry food is down on the ground, the feeding frenzy begins.
Fresh jug of water, good to go.
It doesn't stop with feeding. Deputy Ammons is trapping the cats, mostly paying out of her own pocket to get them spayed or neutered, then re-releasing them. Along the way, rescuing this kitten whose eyes were crusted shut, nose draining fluid, and just last week, pulling this little guy from the water. At just 1 pound, he was found clinging to a rock, covered in diesel fuel.
The tide was coming in and he was screaming.
Using her own cash to take the now aptly named Diesel to the vet.
This is what I do, and if they think I'm crazy, so be it.
Ammons is now building a cattery at an undisclosed location where the cats will hopefully be taken to in February. But she fears her babies, as she's coming to call them, might not make it to their forever home.
Someone has put down antifreeze to poison them.
Ammons doesn't know who wants her babies dead.
Come on, sweetheart.
All she can do is keep her furry partners close. Adoption isn't an option. Most are too old and feral to become house cats. In Tampa, with the Shrimp Dock Cats, I'm Jacqueline Inglace.
Besides the obvious of what's fake on me, can you tell what else is fake merchandise? Well, here's the thing. I don't want you to get played at the register, so I've got some moves for you to help you deke out those counterfeiters.
How are you? Hockey fans, you work hard for your money. And counterfeiters are working even harder to get their hands on it.
2014 Stanley Cup final, we worked closely with law enforcement to seize over 4,600 pieces of counterfeit merchandise.
Everything from jerseys to hats and T-shirts.
That had a retail value of almost $750,000.
ABC Action News is making sure Lightning fans don't get played. The first thing you need to look for, this NHL hologram.
It's got the NHL shield in front with an image of the Stanley Cup in the back.
Shopping for an authentic jersey? It's all in the stitching.
Smooth across the back.
Okay, so it's got to be smooth under here.
That's typically what you're looking for. And on the counterfeits, more often than not, you'll see something that looks like this.
Same goes for caps, but what about T-shirts?
You'll see the screen printing is definitely inferior. It's kind of blurry, the logos especially.
Most of the items come at a reduced price and are sold on the street. You should be safe inside most stores, but how hard is it to spot a counterfeit?
Tell me which jersey you think is counterfeit.
I think this one is. Wrong.
Lightning has struck you.
So here's a little instant replay. Don't buy any merchandise off the street. Look for the NHL hologram on tags and stickers. Take a close look at that stitching too. And look for discoloration and fuzzy logos.
Now that you've got all those tips, you can score real merchandise. Now on me, obviously the beard is fake, but the other thing that's fake, check it out, the Chicago Blackhawks shirt. We're at Amalie Arena, Jacqueline Inglace, ABC Action News.
I'm here at the Florida Aquarium, about to go into the shark tank to swim with sharks, facing one of my biggest fears. Here we go.
The sharks you see and hear are more like what you'd be seeing swimming in our waters right now. And while they can be scary, they're a lot better than what used to be out there.
Basically, he can probably swallow me or you in one bite. We don't even have to get bitten, we just can get swallowed.
Up to 100 feet long, weighing roughly 10 tons. That's about the length of 2 city buses, the weight of 4. The Megalodon shark is known as the monster of the deep.
This one is from a great white shark that measured about 10 foot long, and this one is from a Carcharodontus megalodon.
With 6 rows of 46 razor-sharp serrated teeth, Megalodon is biting down on his prey with 35,000 pounds of force. The average tooth length, 7 inches. Still not grasping the jaw size? I'm 5'7", and as you can see, I fit inside these mock Megalodon jaws. Appearing in international waters 17 million years ago, but evidence now shows Megalodon used to be the boss of Bay Area waters 2 million years ago, particularly Venice Beach.
What attracts to them is the food source, and so, like I said, the bay was shallow.
Marine biologist John Than pulling this 6-inch Megalodon tooth from 200 feet off the beach.
Believed to be extinct because their food ran out.
Or are they? Polynesian fishermen providing detailed accounts of a 100-foot man-eating shark they've nicknamed the Lord of the Deep. And in Mexico, there's El Diablo Negro, or the Black Devil, a 60-foot-long shark who reportedly is attacking ships and boats.
If you're curious and you want to find out more about sharks, this weekend at the Florida State Fairgrounds is SharkCon, or come right here to the aquarium. Make sure you bring your kids because there's a little interactive game. You can tell them how much you weigh, and they'll tell you what type of shark you would be. I'm a Mako. In the Shark Tank, Jacqueline Inglace, ABC Action News.